Hello, friends. Hello, anybody watching who found this through some other means. It's Thursday afternoon. There's a new Step Back video coming out in an hour, so you know what that means. Here I am, doing a stream. Good stuff. I see we already got at least 4 people in the chat. I don't know who's around right now, but I see Jason Martin, Sir Zhao Zhao, and Ace Beater the Bass and Itgam, all here ready to go. Nice to see. So, how to start? Make sure everybody can see me. All right, everyone sees me. Cool. First, I guess I should give you guys a heads up about the next few streams. That seems like a good way to start, just so you guys know. I imagine you guys are a pre-selected audience of people who like streams, so I will start there. And so this Saturday, I'm going to be experimenting with Crusader Kings 2 playing. So if you like Crusader Kings 2 or have never heard of it, what it is it's basically a medieval simulator where you play anything from a minor count all the way up to an emperor. It starts. You can start about as early as the 8th century, I believe. So, under popular demand, I'm going to try playing it, and I'm going to be playing as. Also, I realize I'm probably pretty quiet because my microphone's all the way over here. That's much better. All right. So, I'm going to be playing Crusader Kings 2, and I'm going to be playing as a. Also, I have to apologize. I'm going to have the sniffles. I do have a cold at the moment. I'm going to be playing as a Zoroastrian leader. I do not know which one because, as you can probably imagine, just from what you know about history, that by the 7th century, there weren't a ton of Zoroastrian nobles left in a good part of the world. But I'll try to see what I can do. And also fail miserably because I haven't played CK2 in like a serious way in probably over probably almost 2 years now. Crusader Kings 2 kind of got put aside for Stellaris when Stellaris came out. So at the moment, that's just a thing right now. Hello, Hell Fox. So that's gonna be happening this Saturday at noon Eastern. So if you are on the west coast of the United States or in Canada, you're probably gonna be thinking about 9 a.m. I think it's gonna be like 5 p.m. in the UK and 6 p.m. in Central Europe. So plan your night accordingly, or day, or morning, or whatever. The other thing that I'm going to be doing is I have these Monday videos that's going to start up next week. So I'm going to start making 2 videos a week starting next week using this wonderful toy supplied to me by the Vlog Brothers. And I'm going to do a video, for my first of topical videos coming out on Monday. And I'm going to be doing an extra stream next Monday in order to celebrate that, which I should have thought about what other things I had going on at the time before I committed myself to this, but oh well, it's going to be a busy weekend. Coffee. I finally decided to spring for some good coffee, and now I can't stop drinking it. And then I also can announce now, too, hello, Phil Bass. I can also say that on January 28th, so the last Sunday in January when I usually do my subscriber appreciation day, is going to be done with the YouTuber Isaac Arthur. And if you haven't seen his channel, it's pretty good. It's about science and futurism, and I like it a lot. I think that you guys will have a good time talking about it. And I think we both had a pretty good back and forth saying that New Year, or that a historian and a futurist will do really well. Let's see. It's not dark roast. It is Arabica. Arabica, whatever. Arabica. I mean, I guess you can dark roast Arabica, but I don't think it's dark roast at all. It's still the, like, you know, cheap shit that you throw into a coffee machine. It's just better than the stuff that I was buying before. Another thing I can announce too, if you guys are interested in watching any of my old live streams, my old like subscriber appreciation days, starting I think tomorrow actually, I'm going to be releasing all of my old subscriber appreciation days once a week until I run out, which I think is going to be sometime in February or March. So if there's one that you missed that you really wanted to see, it's coming out. All right, so there's a discussion about time zones going on in the chat right now. I'm going to steer clear of that one. So we have a video coming out in an hour. This one is I'm a little nervous about. It's about the it's framed as a video about millennials and baby boomers, but it's really a video about like the economic expansion that happened after World War II. So we'll see how that turns out. But that's roughly what I'm going for. And then I noticed that in the next month or so, just by sheer coincidence, by like, you know, the rankings and everything like that, I have a lot of videos coming out that are going to have to do with like the 50s, 60s, and 70s in the United States. So we're going to be spending a lot of time in that period. Not all the time, but there's like at least like I can think of at least 4 videos that are going to have to do with that over the next like, I don't know, 9-10 weeks. Yeah. So what do you guys want me to talk about? I'm taking tabs because if I get on a good thing, I might just make it into my my Monday video because I'm not sure what to do yet. The idea of doing a weekly topical video is kind of daunting because then I have to think of topics, and I'm not exactly sure what that will be yet. See, we got. I noticed that because of the time that I stream, since it's in the afternoon, a lot of Europeans watch my streams because I don't like thought on Eastern marshlands. I don't. What do you mean by Eastern marshlands? Is there something I'm missing? Does Canada have anything similar to the U.S. amendments? Like line 24, are you talking about the Constitution? Because we do. We have a Canadian Constitution. Originally, our original Constitution was called the British North America Act. It was signed in 1867. It was basically the United Kingdom, or Great Britain at that time, I guess, turning us into a Commonwealth, or turning us into a protectorate, or a, what was the term? A Dominion, I think was the term that they used to call us. But then we scrapped it around the 100th anniversary of the country. So in 1967, we started developing a new one for ourselves. And the Constitution was... the Constitution we have now, I think, was pretty much put into effect in the early 80s. And there's been attempts to amend it ever since. But the problem with Canada and amending our Constitution is that it has problems with Quebec sovereignty and Quebec nationalism. And anytime we go to fix or change something or add stuff to the Constitution, there is usually a crisis between Quebec interests and Indigenous interests and everybody else interests. And it usually turns into a shit show and then nothing gets accomplished. But it's currently called the Canadian, or it's called the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is the name of the Canadian Constitution. And it protects a lot of things. It protects a lot. If I recall correctly, it's actually more robust at protecting a lot of rights than the United States. Some things that are controversial about it, I would say, are that it does have a protection against hate speech. And I know that in America, for some reason, getting people in trouble for
actively advocating for the destruction of another group is somehow bad, but that's America. They're all or nothing type people. The other thing that the Constitution did, I'm not exactly sure how this stood up, but Ontario had an issue where they realized that technically prostitution is not constitutional, or banning prostitution is not constitutional. And so I'm not sure how that resolved. That was several years ago, but there's a really weird gray area in Canadian law about prostitution because it's still not technically legal, but also there has been a successful constitutional argument made that says that that prostitution is or banning prostitution is unconstitutional. So wherever that goes. Is Eastern Marshlands a podcast I've never heard? Should Sami get independence? I don't know. I think that's a part of Finland, but I did not know that it was its own thingamajig. What type of electoral reform would you like to see in Canada? I'd like to see direct democracy if we want to be like super optimal. Actually, if I want to be super optimal, I'd like the dissolution of the state and to move to local communities taking care of themselves through direct democracy and direct action. But if we have to have a Canadian state, then I would prefer direct democracy, either rule by referendum or if that's too much work for Canada, then I'd probably want something that's more akin to proportional representation. Canada is a country that is very geographically isolated and has a lot of different regions with different regional interests. And unfortunately, those interests don't usually make it to the federal level because population's just not there. And so you end up with just a few really bland, really boring big tent parties that don't really accomplish anything, while we have parts of the Maritimes that are suffering and not many issues or interest there. And also it means that the allowed acceptable amount of political discourse is pretty small. I don't know anything about Åland and Sweden or anything like that. Why are ANCAPs considered to be part of the alt-right? Oh, yeah. So ANCAPs and libertarians, like libertarians who wear fedoras and have the "Don't Tread on Me" flag type libertarians, not libertarian socialists, but I don't know, libcaps. I don't know what you'd call them. Anyways, they when they argue that personal liberty and property should trump all, what they're saying by that is that they have no problem with inequality. They just have problems with the state intervening. And in most cases, in the situations they talk about, the state is either intervening in the public good or is intervening in order to make something more equitable. They don't usually take interest with the fact that that income equality has become completely out of whack. They more are mad about things like taxation and the right to drink raw milk, or laws against marrying children. These are the kinds of things they get worked up about. And so really what they want is dominance by capital. And in our society, that's dominance by, well-off white men. And so what really happened, and a lot of these libertarians too, despite saying they have this appeal to individuality and freedom and everything like that, then kind of completely changed tune once Trump started running. And then you had libertarians like TJ Kirk or the Amazing Atheist. Does he still go by that name? I don't remember. I don't watch his stuff anymore. I grew out of it. You have people like him supporting Trump, despite the fact that he's tried to sell himself as a libertarian for literally over a decade now. And so it's just not it's a facade. And I don't think that equality or liberty is something that they actually would be comfortable with, because then that would involve sharing resources with people who don't look like them, and that really scares them. Your thoughts on electoral reform? I think that it would make Canada better. I will say that I will own up that I admitted that I voted for Justin Trudeau because I wanted to get Stephen Harper out of power, and I regret it every single day now because he basically went back on all of the like basic things that he said he would do. I was part of a group that tried to just promote whoever could beat the conservatives in any riding in order to get electoral reform, and then the liberals backed off on it as soon as they realized that they would not win anything. So yeah, get fucked, Justin Trudeau. What do you think of the EU? It's not perfect. It's definitely a neoliberal elitist institution, but it's better to have it than to not have it. Yeah, there you go. Audible Anarchist pretty much wrote it out. The pro-big government anarchists who love slavery and sex trafficking, aka ANCAPs. What's your opinion on Kurdistan? I mean, the bigger argument about Kurdistan is that the Middle East borders need, like, the Middle East, after like all this war and such, needs to just have the borders erased and redrawn, with, you know, actual people from the Middle East drawing them. Kurdistan is only not a country because of the Sykes-Picot Agreement, which was an agreement between France and England after World War I to break up the former Ottoman Empire. And so they drew these borders completely arbitrarily with no like actual consideration of the people who live in these countries. And they wind up with these countries like Syria and Iraq that have multiple ethnic groups, multiple religious groups, multiple linguistic groups. Kurdistanis don't even speak Arabic. They speak Kurdish. And then you end up with these countries that are complete, you know, just bunches of people who have nothing that tie them together. And then you have basically like a fight over who's going to control it. The only people who can run these countries are like brutal dictators like Saddam Hussein or like Bashar al-Assad, and like kind of like the exact equal story that happened in Europe was Yugoslavia. And Yugoslavia was only able to be kept together because it was run by freaking Tito, who was a brutal, horrible dictator. And I think that there's also some overlapping things about tribe and different levels of association that are not in European cultures as much, that mean that, in my opinion, the Middle East shouldn't have borders. I mean, the world shouldn't have borders. If anything, the Middle East is a good case study as to why borders are pointless. Because part of one group at any given time, and yet we decided to make the fundamental organization of the world based on that. Have you read Kill All Normies? No, I have not. What do you think of my mom making me do the dishes when she knows I have to watch her awesome live streams? Well, you're listening, at least, so you can at least do that. Can you make a video about utopian socialists or proto-socialists? Maybe. You'd have to give me a good story. I'm trying to focus on telling stories now. Because when I just do, like, you know, videos that are just basically political science essays, they don't do very well. Do a video on Buddhism. All right, I have, I think, on my list to do Buddhism, but because you mentioned it, I will write down a note to bump it up. So I'll just take a little thing to... But I think I do have plans to do Buddhism at some point in the near future, but I will do it sooner. Did the CIA kill John Lennon? Probably not. CIA is not that competent. Finland is... Okay. I'm just going to avoid the Sammy conversation. I have no idea what's going on in that situation. So, what's your opinion on the Iranian protests? I guess that's probably what my subject of my video is going to have to be about. I don't know much about it. And because I came back from vacation this week and I've been sick. So, like, have a ton of deadlines. So I have been furiously researching and writing the next batch of videos. At the same time, anytime that I'm not doing that, I'm like in bed because I cannot move. So I have had a hell of a week. And then I also find out that Iran's having like this major protest thing going on. And I don't know what it's about, but I think that might be the subject of my next video, or my Monday video, which it's a good idea. Thank you, Edward. Even though you have a very, you have the, what's it called? The asshole American flag, the don't tread on me snake. unless it's like some parody, but it's too small for me to see. Oh, yeah, there's several Kurdish languages. All right. Have you ever eaten reindeer? Not yet, but I do have medium-term plans of going to Iceland. I don't know if they have. I think they have reindeer. No. Yes. I think they have reindeer in Iceland, and I plan on eating all sorts of weird shit when I go to Iceland. I've heard the sides of the protest sizes were artificially inflated. Well, we'll see. I'll do some research. Do you think that we will see in the future a nation uniting ethnic Arabs from different existing countries? There was an attempt to do that in the mid-century with Nasser, and it got heavily resisted. I think that I think the Middle East and the situation it's in now is pretty far away from something so unitary. There's too much division now based on there's been so much stoking of religious hatred and tribal hatred and all of these things that now the Middle East feels way too divided to do something in the past like it would in the past. How's the Gnosticism video going? It's on a list. I haven't started working on it yet. I kind of do my videos 1 month at a time, but it's on a list to do. I'll write that something down. Could you do a video on U.S. involvement in the Middle East? Actually, I can, because I have read several books on that topic, because it's kind of part of my comps. I do like the War on Terror, so. Your thoughts on the problem in Yemen? You mean like the genocidal attacks being done by Saudi Arabia? It's pretty terrible. Iran has a Kurdish minority. Iran and Turkey and Syria and Iraq all have Kurdish stuff in it, because Kurdistan is a region that really encompasses all of those countries. Wait. Why does true reindeer meat come from Finland? Like, are Icelandic reindeer fake reindeer? Is it not a real reindeer? Would it be better if the Ottoman Empire still existed? No, I don't. I mean, geez, that's a tough question. It would depend upon the context and why the Ottoman Empire still existed in the first place. That'd be a hard thing to sell. Thoughts on Israel and Palestine? Hold on to that one. I have a Patreon stretch goal to do a video about Israel and Palestine, and as soon as somebody passes it, I think I will do it. So that'll be fun. That'll get me in a lot of trouble. Do you have plans to start a family? If yes, I'm always available for adoption. Oh boy. Bit of a personal question. Plus, you're like half my age. I feel like that would be a little awkward. Plus, you have a family. Even if they make you do the dishes, they probably like you. Let's see. Going to Finland would probably be fun. When I was a teenager, I was really into like power metal and stuff like that, and like Finland is where like Nightwish and Sonata Arctica and a lot of like my favorite acts from when I was in high school are from. So I probably should go there sometime. I think that the Middle East's like division and conflict is, I mean, just having an Ottoman Empire. If the Ottoman Empire existed today and it still controlled all the territory that it had, that would be an extremely rich country with all of the oil money, because basically almost most of the Middle East's OPEC would be still in one country, and that is terrifying. Who knows how that would have made things turn out. Admittedly, though, the Ottoman Empire was a lot more... the Ottoman Empire, I don't know. The last days of the Ottoman Empire were kind of weird. I I think that's an alternate history scenario that the context that keeps the Ottoman Empire alive is very important into how it would turn out. And because it didn't survive, it's kind of hard to speculate over whether or not the Ottoman Empire would be a benevolent force in the world. If they became like a British Commonwealth type thing, maybe, but that's a whole thing in itself. And yeah, the Ottomans weren't too great to Armenians, so And yeah, it'd be interesting because like if the Central Powers won World War One, the entirety of the 20th century's history would be drastically different from today. I don't even know if we can even attempt to speculate what a Central Powers victory First World War century would look like. It would be so different from the one we live in that it'd be unrecognizable. I think that's what a lot of alternate historians try so hard to make scenarios out of, but I think that there's a lot of things that would just be super complicated. The EU would still exist. The EU would actually be really old because something like the European Union was actually Germany's post-war plan if they had won. What do you think about Iran's ongoing protest? As I said, maybe you weren't to the stream, but I don't really know too much about it because I've been really busy this week and I've been sick, so it's been hard for me to keep up with things going on. But I'm probably going to make a video tomorrow that will come out on Monday talking about it. I think that's pretty much guaranteed to be the subject of the first of my topical Monday videos. Because Iran is an interesting country. I think one of my Patreon stretch goals for $225 a month is to make a video about Iran. And I excitedly look forward to it. I think, though, that talking about these protests right now would make a very good video. Would make a very good quick take video. Hopefully, I can do enough research to make it good. If everyone hates the EU, how does it still exist and why don't we disband it? Then not everyone hates the EU. I don't hate the EU. I have issues with it, yes. But I think that human unity is better than human division. And, for all of the faults of the European Union, it probably kept World War III, IV, V, and VI from happening. So Europe can't really can't be trusted to be balkanized like it used to be. I think that Europe is a bunch of people who are way too led by nationalism and petty grievances from 1,000 years ago that without some sort of overarching body to keep it together, it pretty much descends into chaos because, I don't know, just seems to be a thing in Europe. So I'm fine with the European Union existing. It's better to have it than to not have it. Could the European Union be fixed? Hell yes. It's a very neoliberal institution that pretty much strangles countries, that has a very inflexible monetary system and all sorts of problems. But yeah. Well, okay, some stuff about the European Union is that the European Bank in Germany is because of the whole rampant inflation problem that happened before World War II, is extremely conservative when it comes to controlling the supply of money. And that's okay if you're doing well like the Germans are. But if you're in a situation like Greece where creating some inflation would actually have helped when they were dealing with some of their major debt crises, the constraints of the European Union led to way more inflexibility, and it caused Greece to suffer way more than it should have. And the same problem is happening in Italy and Spain, and it's bad. The influx, and that's just like one thing. I don't think the French have much of a problem with the EU because right after Germany, France has the most amount of say. And trust me, if you're British, just wait. Just wait like 1 year after Brexit. And when you guys are suffering terribly, Scotland is getting independence, Northern Ireland is defecting to Ireland, and the Spanish are knocking on your door about taking Gibraltar, maybe the United Kingdom will reconsider its position with leaving EU. Because really, leaving the European Union only helps one type of people, and that is middle-class English people, because they're insane and they somehow think they can cling to stupid imperial ideas that are mostly racist in origin. Yeah, England vastly, and I say England, not like British, English people vastly overestimate their significance in the world today. And I think that's part of what led to Brexit. And you guys are gonna regret it. What if the Paris Commune was successful and took over all of France? Whew. Again, that's pretty rough. That'd be a tough scenario. But I do imagine that the world would probably have turn on them and wipe them out at some point, because nothing that egalitarian could possibly be allowed to thrive in the world. Let's see. I'm not saying that the EU is like a perfect place. It's just better than not existing. Honestly, I know that people have like issues with this stuff, but like I honestly wouldn't be too against a one world government, like a UN with teeth, because I think that unless we're going to go to no states, at least having bigger super states where we can't exploit people who are less well off would be better than not having it, I guess. I know that's a weird thing to say, but that's kind of part of. Thoughts on bringing Scotland to Canada as an 11th province? The way we have all the Scotias, that would be fun. But I think that if Scotland were to live, they'd probably be pretty well done by joining the European Union, as I think they pretty much want to do. I don't know how much funding goes into peacekeeping for any country. What do you mean by imperial? Oh, yeah. British people or English people overestimate their role in the world, and they think that, first of all, there's a bunch of English people in Britain who think that all of Britain wants to get involved with Brexit, despite the fact that overwhelmingly it was just English people. Then on top of that, they think that the UK, after Brexit, when everyone has cut off trade ties with them and they've had to pay a massive bill, that somehow something magical about the United Kingdom, which has pretty much no industry anymore, is going to have its own wonderful path that's going to set sail in the world, and everything's going to be great and everything's going to be perfect, when several of the countries in the in the United Kingdom have already expressed that they're thinking about leaving the second that they leave the European Union. They are deluded as to how this thing is going to work out for them. They think that the United Kingdom is staying together just on the strength of Queen and country or whatever, but it's really just convenient. I think that English people grossly overestimate the loyalty of the Scots and the loyalty of all these things. It's just, yeah. There's not going to be this scenario that the Brexiters are hoping for, where the UK just forms this bold future for itself independently. It's just going to be a disaster. And mostly, it was people following Nigel Farage who were obsessed with who are basically just mad at immigrants and didn't like that non-white people were entering the country, which has been a thing in America, or been a thing in the United Kingdom for 50, 60 years now. But it's delusional. They have these like imperial thoughts of like Pax Britannia or whatever, and they haven't realized that that's dead. British Empire's gone. You're done. What if I have no idea what would happen if the Central Powers won? We talked about this already, about how it's crazy. Or it would have been a completely different world today. What are your thoughts about the Logan Paul controversy? Yeah, I think that Logan Paul was a little stupid, and the fact that he saw a dead body, filmed it, and then uploaded that video after editing shows that he really wasn't putting foresight, and it was very tasteless. And I hope that he learns from this and never does it again, because that was tasteless. That was bad. Even the idea of doing a video on the suicide force, I mean, interesting, but not in the way that like, from what I can tell about is it Jake Paul, Logan Paul, one of the Pauls, Logan Paul. Think about Logan. Like, I just think that Logan Paul is not that bright, I guess. What would happen if Texas or California or both were able to successfully secede from the USA? It'd be a disaster. Do you like Chapo Trap House? Yes, I do. I actually am a gray wolf, and I listen to it. I like it. Chapo Trap House, probably my favorite podcast right now. Would it be funny? It would be funny if Britain became a Canadian state. That would be pretty good. Go on Chapo. You know what? If Chapo came to me and said wanted me to go on their show, I would do it in a heartbeat. That'd be right up there. What do you think of London independence? I think that might be something interesting to think about, but man, it'd be hard on the English. Alrighty. Thank you, Freddie. You're so nice. Please. All right. Spam Chapo on Twitter. I know that's not a way to get on Chapo Trap House. Come on. Unfortunately, England is burning all of its bridges by doing this Brexit thing. I don't think that English people have fully digested how monumentally stupid Brexit was, and how suicidally stupid Brexit was. Like, yeah, England's going to be like, if I lived in England, I'd be getting out ASAP, because England is done. Their only hope right now is that they're trying to cling to Trump signing special deals with them, but like, that's not going to last long. Trump's got maybe 2 years left. Maybe, if you're really lucky, you get until 2024. But after that, like, you're not gonna have Trump to keep your economy afloat. Not to mention, it's already been shown that like Germany and France are going to hit the UK with a giant bill for leaving the European Union. I can't really comment on Mexico. I don't really know what's going to happen I don't know the Mexican political situation. I think that I heard that they've had like one party forever, and then they had a different party for a very short amount of time, and they went back to the old one. I have no idea. It sounds pretty tough. What's the best place in Canada to live? I am partial to Montreal. I think Montreal is a really great city. I would love to live there myself if my French was better, but it isn't. So I would probably say Montreal, but Toronto is a good second. I like big cities, so really, those are my choices. What are your thoughts about North Korea? What is the best way to deal with it? Are we close to a nuclear war? All right, how about we answer this in reverse? So, are we close to a nuclear war? I hope not. I hope that in both North Korea and the United States, that grown-ups just take away the button from all the children who they've made leaders of their country. As far as North Korea goes, I think one of the things that the world has to kind of admit now is that you can't. There's not really much hope of militarily overthrowing the North Korean government. That's just not a thing that's going to happen. It would be too costly by a mile, and I don't think that there's any scenario in which North Korea adopts democracy through foreign intervention in a good way. And so really all that the world can do is treat them like a geopolitical player, stop calling them insane, and treat them like, rational actors, and realize that really if North Korea is going to collapse, it's going to be from the inside. So that's just, it's going to be tough to do it any other way. Really, any sort of foreign invasion regime change has been rife with problems and probably should be avoided if at all possible. What is your favorite food? I'm gonna go with curry. I love a good butter chicken or something. What if Korea was never divided? I have no idea. That's for alternate historians to figure out. Depend upon the context and how Korea did not divide. The thing that changed history would probably have a big impact on how things turned out. I think that Cody did a video where he did two videos, one where South Korea won and North Korea won, and I think that might be an idea to go with. Yeah, Lion 24 is onto something with after winning 2 world wars, Britain is the one that breaks down in the long term, and Germany is actually doing well, although obviously there's more to it than that. Yeah, Britain just didn't handle losing their empire very well. I mean, none of the European countries really did. Germany barely had an empire to get rid of, so I guess that might have helped them a bit. All right. How are we doing, guys? What's 2 months after World War II, there was a United Democratic Socialist Europe, or Korea. Damn. How's your week? My week has been insane. I came back to work on Tuesday. Technically on Monday, because I did that stream on Monday. And I'm really sick. Like on Tuesday, on Monday, if you guys were at the New Year's stream, I was feeling pretty crappy. And Tuesday and Wednesday, I could barely get out of bed. Stuffed up, throat sore, just really sick. And on top of that, on January 13th, I go back to the studio to film the next batch of videos. And so I've been frantically trying to write my scripts so that I can get those ready in time. And so I've been very busy and then sick at the same time. And so I've been kind of checked out of a lot of things. If I go back in time and kidnapped Lenin before he went to Russia, would tanky still exist? That's a different red alert. There was a game. I think it's a bit old now, so maybe you guys don't remember it anymore, called Red Alert. Command and Conquer Red Alert, where it's an alternate history, where Einstein invents a time machine and goes back in time and kills, or basically erases Hitler from history. And then they comes back to the present, and World War II is still happening, but it's the Allies versus the Soviets. And so the Soviet Union and the Allies, which now includes Germany, are fighting each other. And it's pretty much the plot of the game. It gets crazy later because then they have like a second one where there's like, a psychic, and then they have a third one. It's very kooky. It's very goofy. So I think they have one where like there's like, Japan, and the Japanese emperor is played by George Takei, and he has like a helicopter that turns into a robot and like all sorts of crazy stuff. It's very sci-fi. It's very goofy. It's very like silly, but it's a fun game. And the alternate history of just like wiping out Hitler and World War II still happens is pretty funny. I mean, there's people talking about the conspiracy theory about Hitler surviving. That's been a conspiracy theory for a long time, and there's no evidence really that, like, plausibility doesn't mean evidence. And there's no evidence that he survived, or if he did survive, that he did anything. Like, if Hitler survived Berlin, then he spent the rest of his life being underground and died in obscurity. Because, like, if he was alive today, he'd be the oldest human being on Earth. So he dead. But obviously he exited stage left. But I think he more likely died. Committing suicide when your insane stuff about racial superiority falls apart in front of you doesn't sound too far-fetched for me. There's an interesting election happening in Mexico. That'd be kind of cool. Could Hitler have risen to power without the Soviet threat? I actually don't think so. I think that fear of socialism's rise in the early 20th century was instrumental to the rise of fascism in Europe. I think those two are kind of connected in a big way. There would have still been right-wing nationalism, but there probably would not have been like actual fascism. Yeah, there's that like punk thing, like, Nazis follow your leader. And it shows him shooting himself. Oh, well. As I said, I'm still sick. That's why I haven't been able to ad-lib as well. I think I'm still a little fuzzy in the head. What else do you guys want me to talk about? How is fascism different from the Nazi Party? Well, in my fascism video, I kind of talked about how fascism is different everywhere it turns up. Italian fascism only makes sense in Italy. And, German fascism only makes sense in Germany. And I think that, you would have found same thing happening in the United States and Canada and any other country. It's different everywhere it is because nationalism sort of fits the people that it comes from. So what's the difference between right-wing nationalism and fascism? One is, I guess, the dictatorship angle. Fascism is really when somebody uses right-wing nationalism to put themselves into the place of being a dictator. So it's a dictatorship run by right-wing nationalism. Would you have rather lived in fascist Italy or Nazi Germany? I guess fascist Italy. Fascist Italy at least had Antifa pretty much through the entire war. So, you know, you could just sign up for them right away. And Italy also had a lot of anti-socialist rhetoric in it. The Italian fascists did come to power because of help from industry leaders and like the monarchy. So they weren't entirely like fascism in Italy wasn't independent of fears of communist uprisings. The Nazis weren't a cult or atheists. Most of them were religious in one form or another. They did adopt some forms of occultism, but calling them atheist is a bit of a stretch. I feel like that's just a post hoc attempt to say why Nazis aren't Christian when really they were very Christian. What historical figure would you like to meet? Oh boy. Gosh, that is a good question. I'm trying to think of somebody who has like a lot of historical significance, but not a lot of is known about them directly. Somebody like Jesus, for example, somebody who is a person that existed, but we probably know literally nothing about the details of their life. That is true, and it'd be interesting to like get that kind of stuff through. So to answer Asami, like the thing about the Nazis with occultism or the occult, it's a thing that they toyed with, but nobody took it super seriously until after World War II. And things got they got kind of bananas after World War II was over. Opinions on Margaret Thatcher. She was a mean lady who did nasty things to Britain, and Britain is worse off for her being prime minister. Did I just post something on Twitter? Maybe. I have, what's it called? I have Recur Post, which lets me post some things automated, some automated stuff. I think it's just a link to one of my older videos. Pretty much I post one video per day of something I made in the last year, just to keep, you know, people finding my stuff. Falklands, Argentinian or British? I don't know. Depends upon what the Falklands want. I definitely was not a fan of Britain invading or attacking Argentina over something like that. But if I were to make an argument about the Falklands, it would be to ask the Falklanders what they want to be. Did anyone during the time of Hitler come to power actually call the party the Nazi Party, or was that like a name given after like name like Tommy, Yank, Fritz, etc.? Actually, I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure. Should Russia give? I have no idea if Russia should give a thing back to Finland. That's very noodly. That's very like very small question. I have no idea. What's your opinion about socialist Yugoslavia and the Civil War in the 90s? Yugoslavia was a brutal dictatorship that was held together by one person because they had multiple different groups of people who are being held together by a brutal dictator. It's just showing that big countries don't really work all that well. Or, you know, countries in general. Can you do a video about the life of Max Stirner? I don't know. It'd be a hard sell. It's going to be hard because I have to like do things that people will actually like want to watch and people will search for, and it's hard to sell a video about a German philosopher in that sense. Tito was very similar to Saddam Hussein. He was a brutal dictator who kept a country together through violence and force. I don't know what Audible Anarchist is referring to with this. I don't know what comment I said that I was downplaying. Karyala, I don't know. Okay, I can't enter into conversations like that. I don't know. I'm not a historian of Eastern Europe. I don't know the details between Finno-Russo relations or anything like that. Plus, when it comes to land going to states, like I'm just like, borders are silly, and I really like. There's not going to be a happy answer either way. Would you be happy? Would you be interested in a video about Manicheanism? I mean, I could. The thing about another thing, like I know that you guys are all really well-read people, but also sometimes it's super hard to like do videos on these really obscure topics because then nobody will watch them. And I'm trying to grow this channel. I do have a list of video ideas that I'm sitting on that are for when I have a big enough channel that I can indulge in a video that I know will flop, but at least will be really interesting to do. And at the moment, I'm not a big enough channel to do that. Why do you think a big country, different people can't work, but a one world government would? I don't even know if a one world government would work. I just wish that there wasn't governments, period. And I would hope that if there wasn't a world system, or if there was a world system, that you'd have less of like the neoliberal arbitrage with humanity. I mean, that's like the only thing that I could think to come out of it. And at least it would probably take war down a peg. I think those would be the things I'd prefer the most. But you know, the optimal solution is to just have no states, period. Unfortunately, nobody seems to agree with me on that one, except for a few of you guys. What ideology is the best meme? I have no idea. I'm not. I think I'm too old to answer that question. Asami Kora, do you ship Korasami? I have never. Oh, that's Asami Kora. Okay, yeah, that's some question for someone else. Thoughts on Tatarstan? I don't know too much about it. I know it's part of Russia. That's about the part. That's about the best that I know of. What do you think about the social/religious backlash and the effect it had on people who played D&D in the 70s and 80s and sometimes even now? I mean, it was like satanic panic stuff. It's anti-occult stuff. It was silly. It's silly culture war stuff from the past. And the people who are into it are the same people who are like against Harry Potter and Halloween. It's silly. I think that even most Christians would say that those kinds of things are silly. I don't think that my having a city state of my own would make me would be a very good idea. I think that would make a terrible delegator and leader. I think that all right, Asami Kora, you got something on that. I think pirates would be a good topic, and they did have a kind of non-government way of arguing things. Are you familiar with the Kardashev scale of civilization? Yes, I am. It's the levels that basic society on how much energy usage it has. So Kardashev 1 is one that uses all the energy in a planet. Kardashev 2 is the one that uses all of a star. And Kardashev 3 is like a galaxy. But at the moment, we have yet to even see a Kardashev 1 civilization's evidence, so it could just be, intellectual wankery. We'll find out when I talk with Isaac Arthur at the end of the month. I'm sure he will have way more to say. Tristan, are you afraid that your kids are plotting against you? I am, but I also do not have any kids, so that would be difficult. Is there an example of a country that developed without a government? Not off the top of my head. Oh, crap. It's already 2 o'clock. Okay. You guys tricked me. Okay. So, I'm going to link you guys the video now. And then we will move along. This one snuck up on me. So, here is... So here is... So that is a link to the new video that just came out. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you share it with your friends and your favorite subreddits and all those kinds of things. And I will see you guys all on Saturday. So tune in on Saturday, and I will be playing some Crusader Kings 2. Peace out, bros.